Maryland lands a couple of huge commitments.
You are Locked On Terps, your daily podcast on the Maryland Terps, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everyone? I'm Trey Moore, host of Locked On Terps, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So thank you guys for making us part of your day. And today's episode is brought to you by Amazon Fire TV Stick. Turn any TV into your Xbox. No console needed. Head to amazon.com/firetv locked on to learn more. Maryland football gets a huge influx in the portal, but I want to focus on one player today, and I'll talk about more of the other guys over the next couple of days and stretch it out a little bit so I can really focus in on each guy. But I want to talk about the guy that I think is going to have the biggest impact on Maryland getting in the portal. So Maryland went on a little bit of a shopping spree in the portal over the last couple of days. The Terps picked up some really big-time players, some really quality players. I don't want to say big-time players, but a bunch of quality guys that I think will help Maryland football in the future and will help their portal class, will help the actual football team next year. And it was much-needed players that I thought would really put Maryland in a really good position. And I think I'm really excited about one player in particular in defensive tackle, Joel Starlings from UNC. I think this is a great pickup for the Terps. I think this is exactly what we need. He's a defensive lineman, but to give you guys a little bit of a background, kind of where I'm at with this roster, and I'm sure a lot of you guys have heard, I haven't liked where this roster is at. I think there's a lot of holes. I think there's a lot of things that Maryland need to get better at. I think there's a lot of different things the Terps need to fix. I'm not huge on this roster. I don't love where it currently stands. I just think there's a lot of work to do. I think right now it's the bottomest roster probably in the Big Ten. And I've said that they need to do a really good job, a legit job in the portal, being able to get different players and be able to get quality guys that can actually play for us. And I think that's exactly what Joel Starlings is going to be. I think he's a quality player, and I'm really excited about kind of what he brings to the football team, his position that he plays, because I think it's one of the bigger positions that Maryland actually needs right now. I've always said this. The biggest difference between Maryland and other big-time teams in the Big Ten, it isn't about the corner room. It isn't about the secondary. Is it about the receivers? It's not about the corners. I would even say it's not about the quarterback play. It's not about the skill guys. It's not about running back. It's not about receiver. It's not about corner. It's about the trenches right now for Maryland. That's the biggest difference in them taking the next step in the Big Ten and us looking at Mike Locksley as maybe a better coach. Mike Locksley putting together a better year for Maryland football than they had last year, and even a better year than they've had when Maryland's had some success. I think it's up front in the trenches. Maryland's offensive and defensive line always seems to lack star power, seems to lack consistency. It lacks depth. Every kind of word you want to state, it just hasn't been that good over the last couple of years. And it's held Maryland back in so many different ways. And it really hurts the Terps being able to get to the level that they want to be on the offensive and the defensive side of the ball. Maryland can't be as good as they really want to be just because they're not as good up front. And a lot of coaches will tell you this. The foundation of your football team starts with those guys up front, offensive and defensive line. If you have a good offensive and a good defensive line, you're going to be in a decent position to actually be able to win games. And I really believe that. You could have not as good receivers, but if your quarterback's going to have time in the pocket, you're still going to be able to find guys. Defenses can't hold up forever. If you're able to get pressure on the quarterback and you're able to stop the run, it puts so much less stress on your secondary. Your defense will actually end up looking a lot better than it actually is because of the guys up front. But Maryland's kind of had the problem where they've kind of been in the reverse the last couple of years, where we're really good at receiver, but we have trouble getting them the ball. Third and longs are tough because we just don't have enough time, or we have talented running backs, but they just can't find holes. They can't get consistent type of play from their offensive line. And the defensive line, we've got a really good secondary. I don't know if you guys saw the graphic. It was on Twitter. It feels like I'll talk about the draft a little bit more because Maryland put together a really good NFL draft, and I'm really happy for some of those guys. But a lot of Maryland secondary guys have been drafted over the last couple of years. Tarheeb Still, Deontay Banks. Those are two guys that are making starts in the NFL. Tarheeb Still had a really good rookie season. He really did some big things. Deontay Banks as well for the Giants was a first-round pick. Bo Braid made the Ravens roster last year. Dante Trader just won the 5th round. Like that. That's like a deep, and Jacorian Bennett can't forget about either for the Raiders. Like that's a pretty deep class for the Terps. So I do think some of those things matter. But to me, when you look at Maryland and when you kind of look at where the Terps are at, it's been a lot of good corner play, even though last year wasn't great anywhere. It's been a lot of good skill position, but we haven't had the guys up front. And this year, I really want to have a better defensive line. And I think Joel Starlings, I know I went on a rampage. I want to get back to Joel Starlings and what he kind of brings. To me, is the perfect pickup for Maryland football. First of all, he comes from UNC. So he's not coming from some D2, D3 program. And I know we've picked up a good amount of those guys, and some of those guys have helped us. But I also think it's important to get some guys that played high-level football. He was also one of the best guys in the defensive line class, in the transfer portal class. He's a top 10 guys. Like a lot of different schools actually wanted him. And so I do think that it's a really good thing that we were able to get him. Like he got offers from Georgia Tech, Purdue, and a lot of other offers. So I do think it's important that we were able to land a kid like this. I do think it's going to help us a lot with where the Terps are at. And then also, I think in terms of the depth on the defensive line, I'm just not huge on the depth. Ever since we lost LaVon Johnson to Texas, I felt like this room's rather thin. I like Ian Thomas's size. I like Dylan Fontes. I like Bryce Jenkins, the freshman. I like Dimitri Nichols. I like some of these guys, but there's just not a lot of depth up there. You don't feel great about the guys you have up there because none of those guys have played at the level of the Big Ten level that you really want them to be able to play at. So it's good to get somebody like this. It is good to get somebody like this Joel Starlings kid from UNC because he's used to playing at a high level at UNC. It's not like he's coming from somewhere he's going to have to adjust the level of play. Like he's going to be able to come in right away, and he should be pretty comfortable with the level of play. I think UNC and Maryland football compare pretty well to each other. I think both rosters are pretty similar over the last couple of years in terms of talent. I wouldn't say like UNC outclasses us. I wouldn't say Maryland outclasses UNC in terms of talent. So I think getting a kid like that that's used to that level of play, that's gone against high-level offensive linemen, that has seen every day what it takes, I do think that's a good sign for the Terps. And then also, he just has the size that you want up front at 6'5", 310. Like, that's a big body, and that's exactly what Maryland needs. They need a big body in there because right now we're just lacking those types of guys. And injuries happen. Guys are going to get hurt. Different things are going to end up happening during the season, even though, knock on wood, you don't want those things to happen. But you just need more guys than you usually think you need, especially at those types of positions. And those guys sub in and out. So you want somebody that can come, that can sub in and out. So I think he's also really good there. And then there's an interesting part about this, that he also was actually a really high-level recruit. So I think that's something else that is important to kind of look at is as a recruit, he was actually a 4-star rated prospect. He was a top 10-ish player in Virginia. Like, he was a really high-end recruit. A lot of people wanted him out of high school, and I don't know why we're like and I guess he was top 10 defensive lineman in the transfer portal class. So I do think there's also I think you feel pretty safe with what you're going to get from Joel Starlings. I think he's going to come in and be at least decent for us. It's hard for me to believe he's just not good. I think he's going to be at least decent for us, but there's also a high ceiling, which every fan wants in a player, is a guy that, he's going to be pretty good for you, but there's also a chance he ends up being really good. And I think Joel Starlings has that kind of talent to actually end up being really good. I know his technical Actually, when you look at the transfer portal ranking, it said he was a top 10 defensive lineman in the portal. So I do think they recognize that he has that type of ceiling, that he has that type of talent to actually be one of the better players on Maryland's defense. And again, I really think it's important to have guys up front that can plug holes, that can get to the quarterback, that can stop the run. Because if we're not able to do that, we're just not going to be a very good football team. So I do think we got to get back to some of those basics and doing some of those basics well, and not all this flashiness and this and that and running the ball, or not having receivers, not running the ball, having 2,000-yard receivers or something like that, and two corners that are going to the NFL. Like, we got to get back to just winning in the trenches a little bit. And I think Michael actually showed that in the transfer portal class, that he's going to get some guys up front, or he did get some guys up front. So I think that is important. And I think it's also good because he's only a redshirt freshman. So he still has a good amount of eligibility remaining, which I think is important for Maryland. I think it's important to get some an influx of young players, because I think Maryland's roster projects as maybe this isn't the year, but over the next couple of years, we can start to hit a stride. We can start to hit a level that really gets us into a good spot and to be a really solid football team. I think when you look at how Mike Locksley's recruiting and those different things, I think Maryland can hit a level that's pretty high eventually. So I do think that's important as well for the Terps. I do think that'll end up helping Maryland a lot too. Let's talk about the spring game. We'll talk about it more specifically, but I'll give my general thoughts about how people looked, who looked good, who didn't look great, who performed well. I'll give my thoughts after this. The NBA playoffs are almost here, and FanDuel's giving new customers an incredible way to get in on the action. Right now, when you join FanDuel and place your first $5 bet, you get $250 in bonus bets if your bet wins. I love how FanDuel makes betting so easy, whether it's picking your favorite team or diving into player props. From three-pointers to steals to assists, FanDuel has so many ways you can bet your favorite player props. Plus, after the game tips off, you can even combine live prop bets into same-game parlays for a chance to win big. There's so many different things to bet on FanDuel right now. There's so many opportunities with the NBA playoffs, MLB's in full swing, the NHL playoffs. So don't miss out. Head to FanDuel.com and claim your $250 in bonus bets today. So Maryland spring game, I want to give kind of my general thoughts on Maryland spring game, who I thought looked good, who I thought didn't look good for Maryland spring game. I do want to say this. I thought Maryland spring game was one of the more important spring games that Maryland's had. I think there hasn't been a ton of different things from Maryland's football team that you feel awesome about. There's a lot of inexperience. So I do think that Maryland spring game was important for Maryland to be able to recognize a couple different things. So Maryland spring game was really interesting. So the quarterbacks, I think, is obviously going to be the storyline, and a lot of people are going to talk about that. But the quarterback play was actually really interesting. And the quarterback play was a lot better than I thought it was going to be. I thought guys were going to struggle. I wasn't sure exactly how we were going to go about it, but I actually thought that all guys showed a little bit of something. But I do want to focus on two guys that I thought played well. Obviously, we got to start with Malik Washington, our 4-star top-rated guy, who a lot of people are really excited about, and all of his kind of accolades in high school and all those different things, being a 4-star rated player, top 50, top 5 quarterback in his class. I thought looked the part. I thought he had a really solid day. I thought he made a couple of really big-time solid throws. I thought he did some things at a fairly high level for the Terps. I thought he made some impressive type of throws. I think the biggest thing for me was I wanted to see what kind of talent showed itself on the field, and I think you could see it. I think he clearly had the most velocity. I think he had the biggest arm clearly out of all the guys. He had a couple of really nice throws, and he had a pretty productive day. So I do think my overall storyline is that Malik Washington definitely looked good, and I thought he looked the most talented guy out of everyone that played. I think that's fair to say. I think he was the most talented guy. I think the most surprising part of the spring game, though, was the play of Christian Martin, who's gotten overshadowed. I don't know if I've really talked about him at all. He's clearly the number 3 quarterback right now, but Christian Martin played some really high level football. He's been in the Maryland program now for a year, redshirt freshman, so he's been able to play a little bit and do some different things. But I think everyone guessed that Justin Martin was going to be either the backup or the starter. But I thought that Justin Martin did a lot of really good things, and he looked Christian Martin. You get the Justin and Christian mixed up. Christian Martin, I thought, did a lot of really good things. I thought he looked really good. In the first quarter, was 7 of 8 for 121 yards and 2 touchdowns. I was like, wait a minute. He's doing some things that we didn't expect him to be able to do. And he was a spring game MVP. That is what people were saying. And I thought he looked really good. He made a couple of big-time throws. And that was my biggest takeaway is, should he be in the mix? I remember I did an interview with him for, I think it was Locked on Terps a little bit ago. And he's a really solid kid when he committed. He's a good kid. And I'm not surprised at all that he's in that position. Kind of stayed quiet, didn't enter the portal, went about his business. And I'm not saying he's going to start, but I do think he's put himself in a better position and showcased himself at a level that is important to do when you're playing college football. Because even if he doesn't end up being the quarterback at Maryland, those guys end up transferring or whatever, you put together a really good film for teams to be able to look at and for teams to get excited about to be able to get you in the portal. So we'll see exactly what happens. I guess he'll be on the team next year. But I thought Malik Washington had the most talent, but I thought Christian Martin had the best game. And don't get me wrong, he looked really talented as well. Made some throws that I didn't know he was going to be able to make, but he definitely looked really solid overall. Then I think what's most exciting is, I've been saying this about the receiver room. We need somebody to step up. We need somebody to play at a high level. We need somebody to be able to go make plays for somebody to do different things at a high level and whatnot. And I think Mekhi White showed that on Saturday in the spring game. Mekhi White looked really solid. I thought he did some really good things as a receiver. I thought that he was the show of the game. I thought he made a lot of good things. He had 2 touchdown grabs in the first half. And this was the play, actually, is that we expected him to be a guy that could go up and get it with his frame, with his body. And that's what he did. And I thought he looked really good. And a really good guy on the outside to potentially have on this Maryland team. But he looked athletic. He looked like he had the size. He looked the part. And I think he's a guy that might make push. I know we just brought in another transfer wide receiver. Might make push to be a guy that's one of the starting guys. And we're looking for guys that can start. I know they are. So we'll see. I thought some of the other receivers looked good. I thought Ryan Manning made some really good plays. I'm excited about him. But I really thought that Mekhi White played at a really high level. We'll dig more into it over the next couple of days. That's kind of what I saw from my general kind of 2 takeaways is Mekhi White looks talented, a guy that we're going to need this year. And then I also thought props to Christian Martin. Been quiet, didn't enter the portal, has just been competing his butt off, and now he's in position to who knows what he'll be able to do. And I don't know how he looks in practice every day, but he's definitely pushing Malik Washington and Justin Martin, which I think is important. I think you want a guy behind you that's going to push the guys in front of you, and I bet that's exactly what he's doing right now. So props to him for looking good for himself, but also just making our receivers look good. Guys like Mekhi White, I thought he did a lot of things well. Maryland's draft class. Let's talk about that. Maryland got a lot of guys drafted. Let's touch on that. We'll talk about that next. There's nothing like the atmosphere of an NBA playoff game. Every bucket, every defensive stop, every moment feels huge. It's electric in the arena, and with Gametime, you can be part of it without the stress of last-minute ticket hunting. Gametime makes it easy to get playoff tickets even when demand is sky high. prices on the app actually go down as tip-off gets closer, and their last-minute deals can save up to 60%. Last-minute deals save up to 60% of buying last-minute tickets for sports, concerts, comedy, theater, etc. The all-in pricing means no surprise fees at checkout. What you see is what you pay. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. So let's talk about Maryland's draft class. So Maryland had a bunch of guys drafted, and I thought this was an important step kind of for Maryland football with the amount of guys being drafted and the quality of guys that got drafted. I thought was really important for Maryland football, and I thought they did a lot of different things. So Maryland football sent 6 players to the league in the NFL draft, and that's the most since 1986 for the Terps. So that's a pretty big time number. So clearly Maryland's doing a lot of things well. It's kind of funny because we had a bad season last year, but we had our most guys drafted in 6 years. So just a little bit kind of funny to think about. But they were also like, I forget the exact number, but it was like top 10 or top 15 in terms of schools, the amount of guys that schools got drafted behind some of the big time programs. And I thought even more guys kind of went than I expected, and some guys got higher than I actually thought. But that's exactly what we want. And part of getting a program to a certain spot and being able to recruit at a certain way is to be able to look at recruits and say, hey, we sent 6, 7, 8 guys to the NFL draft last year. You should look at us because we're going to allow you to play at the next level. Like, that's a really important recruiting pitch that not people are going to talk about, but that's something that's really important that recruits look at. But to just give you guys a quick summary of the draft and kind of my quick thoughts, Ty Felton was our first draft pick, which was completely expected in the 3rd round by the Minnesota Vikings. So he gets to be part of a really awesome receiver room, to be honest, with the Vikings. He gets to be part of a really solid room with what do they got? Justin Jefferson, Addison. Like, that's one of the better receiver rooms that you can honestly be with, and Ty Felton gets to be a part of that in the 3rd round, and he gets to play with a great cast. So we'll see how he ends up being for them, but that's a guy that could fly under the radar, and all of a sudden you're looking at a Minnesota team, and he's their 3rd guy really helping them win games. Ruben Hippolyte went a little bit higher than I thought, but it also makes sense. 4th round into the Chicago Bears, so he gets to go to Chicago, which is honestly really cool for Ruben. But that's pretty highly drafted for Ruben Hippolyte, like 4th round. That's a pretty good spot to be. I think after he ran that 40 time, teams are really excited about kind of what he was able to do. But he's put together some high-level years for Maryland football. So I do think Ruben Hippolyte is a good pickup for the Terps. I think he can do some or pick up for Chicago Bears. I'm excited to see what he can do. And then we had Jordan Phillips, the first Maryland guy to go to Miami. There's another guy that we'll talk about in a second. Had a really good pre-draft kind of combine and workouts, and it allowed him to be drafted to the Dolphins. Makes sense that he get drafted in the 5th round. I think that's about where I had him predicted. I think I honestly did a pretty good job predicting where guys would go. I think I said Ty Felton would be a day 2 guys. I thought he would be a 2nd, 3rd round pick. Ruben Hippolyte, I thought would be closer to the 7th round, but it doesn't surprise me with the 40 time. And then Dante also is going to the Dolphins in the 5th round. Really solid for Dante. Happy for him. And then we have 2 7th round guys. Caden Prather is going to the Buffalo Bills, which I think is really cool for him. Opportunity for him to be able to do. And then we're also seeing Tommy King Basote go to the Cowboys. So I do think that's a really solid class for Maryland football in terms of the draft class. One of the better ones they've had. I mean, it says the best one since 1986 in terms of the amount of production. But that's definitely an exciting little class for Maryland football to put together. So congrats on that. That's all we have for today. Thank you guys for listening to Locked on Terps. Make sure you like and subscribe. We're here every day talking Maryland football and basketball. So thank you guys for listening to Locked on Terps.